It's a question that I ponder when I do the math. When you read and you study the science of things, man, and you look behind the words, you got to ask yourself, man, from the beginning, from a biblical standpoint, was Satan really that bad? Yes, he influenced man to partake of something that God instructed them not to. It's true. But he didn't tell them to rape nobody. He didn't tell them to kill nobody. He didn't tell them to steal from nobody. Satan just wanted man to have knowledge. Maybe he has selfish reasons. You know what I mean? Just to, on some I told you so type shit. But this is my thing, man. Who's really at fault in this particular story? And Tommy made, he didn't make an analogy, but like one of I'm talking about Tommy, so about Europe. One of his guests was trying to like convince Tommy to do religion, to be into religion, and then I think they were talking about the tree of knowledge of good and bad and stuff like that. And Tommy was like, "Yo, why would I put a sharp ass sword in the middle of the room around my infant children? Why the fuck would I do that? Why would I have like open electrical plugs like with the cords cut off and the electricity just jumping around children? Why would you put something of such magnitude and danger around somebody that doesn't really know anything about the world?" Now, from a biblical standpoint, Adam did know about the world. Adam did know the dangers. Adam knew if he would partake of that fruit, something bad would happen. Now, I don't see how Adam and Eve could even comprehend, like they said, if you eat from this, you positively will die. They've, you know, from a biblical standpoint, they've never seen a human being die for. So how would they even know the concept of what that is, unless they witness other animals live it and then expire? So that's the only thing I can infer. And that's the thing that's whack about the Bible, because a lot of things you got to kind of draw conclusions based on logic, so to speak, or, well, human beings perfect, but maybe animals weren't on the same level as humans. Even though in the Bible in the beginning it says nothing about consuming animals. So what's the point in just having creatures that just live and die? I mean, well, plants eat manure and off of animals' carcasses, so I guess it's just one continuous cycle of life and death. But I say that to say this: Satan just wanted to have knowledge, man. Now, somebody broke it down to me. I think my brother Zoe Williams, he was talking to me about this a couple years ago, and he was saying how in the Bible God did kind of lie in the beginning, because he said if you eat from this fruit, you positively will die. And then Satan was like, you positively will not die. Now, both of them were right in the respect that one specific word was missing from that situation. If God would have said, you positively will die eventually, then that would have been cool. If Satan, but Satan said, you positively will not die right now, I guess Adam and Eve thought if they ate the fruit that they would die immediately. And once they ate from it, they said it was good for eating. They didn't die immediately, but things changed. Their eyes were open, and they were able to see that they were naked. Now, for nakedness to be something that's embarrassing, God had to create them with that emotion of embarrassment. But at the same time, he created them with the emotion of embarrassment, but then he shielded them from the concept of embarrassment. And the only way they would feel embarrassment is when they ate from this fruit. And to me, that's bullshit, man. That whole concept, I just can't get with it. Why would you create beings with these certain abilities and certain potentials for emotions, but then you take away the ability for them to experience said emotions unless they do something that you told them not to do? And then why put that temptation like right in the center of the garden? It was like in the middle of the garden. In the middle. Like, here, take it. It's right here. And Satan was like, yo, I want y'all cats to be aware and be like us, man. You know? And the price of being like God is you have to die now? Oh, because, I mean, I kind of understand it, because I feel like, yes, we may die in a physical form, but I feel like our spirit transfers to something else. What that is, I can't specifically say, because nobody came back to tell you what it is. All people can do is speculate. But what I do know is that reality exists through your own personal perception. And once you die, to just say it goes to nothingness, basically you're saying that reality ends. And I don't co-sign that. I don't believe that shit, because things are always happening. Things are always going. You know, there are things that, like, there's things that you ate, there's water that you drank, there's plants that you ate, came from your mother and your father, they came from somebody else. Man, there's a continuous cycle of life. Now, the one thing people are concerned about is where does the consciousness go? Where does your consciousness go? That's the thing that we're concerned about. Is it going to go, if we don't do good for a temporary amount of time on this earth in comparison to eternity, are we tormented forever and burned and burned and burned? Like, that's like the biggest sore loser, asshole father, if hell actually did exist. Like, really? You're going to give human beings, basically for like the first 15 years or whatever, the first 18 years, you know, you're pretty much a child, you still learning, so you get a pass. So from like 18 to like, you know, to wherever you die, like, so let's say you got about 40 years to get it right. You mean to tell me you got 40 years to get it right, to live eternally, or to burn eternally, or to not exist eternally? Balance-wise, it just doesn't make sense on either end. It's like, to me, it's way too great of a reward if you live in eternal bliss for doing good for a few years, 30, 40 years. And it's way too harsh if you're like tormented and destroyed eternally for all that time. I feel like, to me, hell, I would be even cool with the concept of hell if you was burned, or you suffered whatever it is that you was going through, or whatever bad or evil that you did on this planet. If it was for like a year, you did it for a couple of years, then you experience those evils towards yourself in whatever hell. And there's different concepts of hell that have those types of theories. And to me, that would make more sense. Like, punish me for as long as I did my wrong. For not forever. What the fuck? That doesn't make sense. You know? Now, from what I gathered, Satan originally, I think it's not, some people say his name was Lucifer. Some people say Morning Star, and Lucifer and Morning Star pretty much mean the same thing. And they say well, first of all, he was a muse. He was the god of music and entertainment. So that's why a lot of people think, well, Hollywood and music and stuff like that, there's all types of rituals that you have to do in order to get famous fast or whatever. But, all right, who gives a fuck? But they said, from what I gathered, Satan's main job was to be the guardian of Adam and Eve. Towards, you know, just like, I wouldn't say animals, but, you know, stuff happens. Like, you got tornadoes and hurricanes and floods or what have you. I don't think, from what I gathered, that the animals weren't savage and they weren't eating each other back then. But which makes absolutely no sense, because then why create animals with like certain types of razor sharp teeth that can break bone and pierce through some things? You know what I mean? It's like creating a car with wheels, but you use it as a house. Like, you sit in the car, and it just doesn't make sense, man. That's why I don't co-sign the Bible at all. I think it's bullshit. I think there are beneficial things that can actually help you from it, and it has, you know, pretty good tenets that form the good portions of society. But at the same time, it has such an influence over people. The power of the Bible, or the power of religious texts in general, when it's placed in the wrong hands, people use it to control you, and people use it to justify. It's really is no such thing as good or evil. It's just people just do shit. And basically, evil is evil. That which is perceived as evil, it's all perception. It's all perception. You know what I mean? Like, now you're in a situation, you got kids and stuff like that. You don't want nobody to kill your children. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So somebody kill your kids, that's evil. But on the flip side, if you got to kill some kids to make your kids, like, you know, to keep your kids alive or some shit like that, then you're probably gonna do that. Then it's a bad thing. But you're doing it for your own personal gain. So I don't think there's no good or no evil. It's just all perception. It's just a matter of the things that we do and the lives that we live and how it pertains to us. And that's what determines if it's good or evil. If it benefits you and it detracts from somebody else, then it's good for you, it's evil for them, and vice versa. Now, I'm getting deep with y'all motherfuckers. Like, just the whole concept, like, Satan, you got this all-powerful being. Like, basically you had God. God is the Almighty. Bam. Then his only begotten son, Jesus or Michael, that was the first being that he created. And then he entrusted into Michael, into Jesus. Michael was the master worker. Michael was the word of God. Basically, whatever he spoke, that's what came into existence. So that's the whole concept of the word. So Jesus was the master worker. And for what I'm hearing, Satan, or that main angel, Samael or whatever, Samael or fucking Lucifer, Morningstar, he was the third one. And his main job was just to serve as a protector and an educator of humanity. Now, this is the thing. When you break it down, by him telling them that, you're not going to die from it. Now, he should have said you're not going to die immediately. If he would have said it like that, and that's probably what he meant. He was kind of omitting information. But then God was omitting information kind of too, because when he said you positively will die, they probably assumed that it was going to happen right now. And Satan was crafty, and he knew that they wouldn't die immediately at that particular moment. But this is another thing. This is another thing. All these spiritual creatures, right? All these beings, they've never even experienced anything dying. I'm assuming that. For them to even know the concept of what death was, some other creatures or beings had to die. Some other creatures or beings had to die, man. People still lighting fireworks. It's like 8 days later after the 4th of July, and people are still Jamaicans, man. We gotta light it. We gotta blast it up. Fireworks. Burn them. Burn the shit. Burn the shit, man. Boycott. That's all that. Jamaicans love shit that be exploding. Why y'all love explosions and loud sounds, man? That shit is crazy. But yeah, they had to experience, like, for a creature to understand the concept of what death is, you have to see something die. You have to see something expire. So why would God create certain beings for them to even get the concept of not existing or just not being in this particular form? You can't create or destroy nothing. You could just change shit. In order for things to exist, things had to have always been, because you can't get something from nothing. Reality exists because reality always existed. There was no beginning. There was no Big Bang. None of that shit fucking existed, because it's contrary to everything that we see in nature. You don't see nothing just manifest out of nothing. You don't see that, man. You always see something coming from something else, something forming from something else. Everything was always here. This shit always was. Period. That's the only way it makes sense, man. So even the concept of telling someone, if you do this, you're gonna die, but nobody even understands what the concept of death is, it's fucking bullshit. That's how you could tell it's written by men, very smart men, because the certain penalties that they are eliciting are penalties that they're eliciting from a mortal standpoint. Because we human beings, we see shit die all the time, and we don't want to die. So let's create a rule, because everybody knows what death is. That if you do this, you're gonna die. Okay, so we're not gonna do that. But if you have these spiritual creatures, and then you see Adam and Eve, they were perfect. Unless animals was dying left and right, that's the only measure that they can use. Okay, I see these creatures is dying. I don't want to go through that, because Adam, he said he saw that the animals were always joined up with a female and stuff like that, and they had companions. So he started to long for a companion, and God saw that. And to me, that's some bullshit too, because it's like, why create the animals that way, but then create Adam with like a penis and like hormones and lust, but don't create no bitch. Make him thirsty, make him really, really want it, and then you create it for him. Like, God, like, yo, the whole concept, like, if you really, really break it down, that's a sadistic motherfucker, man. That's some sadistic shit. I'm gonna create this dude with a dick. I'm gonna create this dude with a desire to be with another companion, but have no companion. They make all these animals with companions. Who knows? He probably was walking around for 100 years looking at all these animals fucking and shit, doing all this sexual. She's like, damn, I got this penis. I want to do that shit too. So he gonna put him in a deep sleep, take away one of his ribs, and then create Eve. And the funny thing is, even after all that shit, he created Eve, They didn't even fuck before they partook of the fruit. You seeing all these animals fucking for all these years and shit. He finally creates you with a companion. You got a dick. Your dick gets hard. But you know what? I think his dick, they did, well, it did. One of the rules was be fruitful and become many and fill the earth. So be fruitful means, be fruitful, have children. It means fuck. It means have sex. God's first, his first commandment was, his first commandment was be fruitful and become many. Basically, fuck. That was the first commandment. God's first commandment was to human beings to have sex and make babies, fill and subdue the earth, and have dominion over the animals, and eat from every other fruit, but don't eat from this tree right here. Like, why even create the option, man? Why even create the negative option? It's fucking stupid. That shit makes no sense. Now, to me, it would be better if you say be fruitful and become many. And then Adam like, nah, I ain't fucking that bitch. Well, then, yeah, nigga, you need to fucking be cast down. We need to bring somebody else. Because I created you with a dick, so why you ain't using your dick? That would have been a better script. I would have wrote it that way. Like, Adam didn't want to fuck his bitch because, I don't know, he was watching gazelles fucking. He just wanted a gazelle. Like, he's like, yo, the gazelle looks sexy as hell. But God made this woman. Like, I just see animals. I be seeing gorillas and shit fucking each other. That's all I see is animals. You made this human being? No, I want some monkey pussy. Like Dave Chappelle said. I'm wilding right now. I'm tweaking. But yeah, man, I don't know, man. Like the whole concept of Satan. He didn't tell them to kill each other, All he said was, yo, eat from this tree. Be like us, man. No good and bad. And then the thing of God is creator of all things, then he created bad too. When a person writes a book, they write every single possibility and outcome. They write every single possibility and outcome. So if God is creator of all things, he created every single possibility and outcome. But I don't believe in God like that. I don't believe in it. I don't believe it is one entity or being in the sky that's just controlling everything. It's tedious as shit. It's tedious. It's kind of frivolous. It's any type of I just don't co-sign it. Like any person that's religion, like when you really start to break it down, it's all bullshit. I mean, use it for something that's positive and beneficial that's going to make you cope with all the pressures and stresses that we have in reality. You know, you can use it for that, but when you try to make it seem like it's the end-all, be-all, and you try to judge other people because they're not believing and interpreting things the way that you do, and they're not believing and interpreting things that can't really be proven. Nothing on a spiritual level can really be proven. It's all subjective. It's all a matter of how you feel about yourself. And that's when there's a problem. But, you know, if you don't want to go around through life being depressed and thinking this is all you have and you have a hope for something else, like in the next whatever, and if the hope for that is enough to make you just be a decent human being towards other people, then by all means, man, do your religious thing. By all means, but don't, when you take it to the extreme and like, yo, if you don't believe me, I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna ridicule you, I'm gonna put you down, I'm gonna talk shit about you, I'm gonna ostracize you, and that's when it's a problem, man. But like the whole Satan, yo, even if you look from a biblical standpoint, as far as Satan, who had the higher body count between Satan and God? They had this little link online, man. I think Satan killed. Who did he kill? He killed Job's family. It was 12 people. But the only way he was able to kill it because he asked God's permission. He was like, yo, if I take this away from Job, he will curse you to your face. But you got to take away, you put this hedge around him, like you're protecting him. You take away this hedge, let me kill him, and you know what I mean? And watch him turn against you. And so God was like, oh, it's like they was fucking betting with human beings. That's a fucking bet. How could you love your father if he fucking betting over you with his buddies next door who don't give a fucking shit about you? You know what I'm saying? Like, so God's like, what? Oh, they ain't gonna listen to me. Watch this. I'm gonna fucking take his kids away. I'm gonna make him lose all his life. I mean, no, he said, no, this is what God did. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the hedge out. I'm gonna take away the protection. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do and watch you still be good to me. What kind of good father would do some shit like that? That's like a dude saying like, you know what? I know your daughter loves you, but if you let me rape her and beat the shit out of her and kill her kids and fucking give her a disease, I bet you she'll start hating you. He's like, you know what? Here's my daughter right here. You can do whatever you want to do to her. Watch, she still come back. What kind of, that's some pimp shit, man. Like, that alone is enough to make me not want to fuck with that specific God. That's a fucked up God, man. Ain't no father in the world gonna let some evil, sadistic people or people with bad intentions do something to their kids just to prove that their children love them. Can y'all religious people see how fucked up that shit is, man? Why would you want to adhere to something like that? Just a story of Job, and there's a whole bunch of other stories. In the beginning, Cain and Abel, God was like, not Cain and Abel, I'm sorry, Isaac or whatever. He was like, offer your son up to me as a sacrifice. If you really love me, you'll kill your son. So he goes up, he's like, damn, son, I gotta take you to the top of this mountain, I gotta kill you. And right when you about to stab his son in the chest, like, God, nah, you don't gotta do that. I just wanted to see if he was gonna do it. Isn't God all-knowing? So God knew if he was gonna do it or not. So then God is doing it because, like, I guess angels and different beings, they aren't all-knowing. So God is like proving himself to other angels, but they're perfect beings, so they should trust in God's judgment and everything they say. So why should God have to fucking play with human beings just to prove to these other creatures that he created that's lesser than him, to make him look good? That whole concept was fucking some evil, dark shit. The more I look at it, God in the Bible, God is fucking more evil than Satan, man. From a biblical standpoint, if you look at that shit and you break down like certain things, like, okay, you're gonna offer up your son, have your son die for man's sins, something that you created. But Adam, was a perfect man that chose to die because he wanted to die with his wife, with Eve. So you needed another man without sin. So basically, Adam chose sin willingly, which made him die. And in order to balance that out, you need another creature to choose to die without sinning. Which makes sense. You need, God has some type of order or balance that he does things. But it's just some evil, sadistic shit. We fucking pawns just being played, man. Like, that shit is disgusting, man. I hate religion. Like, the more I think about that shit, the more I break it down. Listen, I just try to be cordial with people. I try to be as positive as I can be. I try to inspire as much as I can. I'm not saying you got to follow this. I'm not saying you got to follow that. I'm not saying if you don't follow this, this is going to happen to you. I'm not saying my way of living is going to make you live better. I'm not saying any of those things, man. I just try not to hurt people. That's all. I just go through life. That's it. Try to make people laugh. But if you look at it, God's body count, God legit let Satan kill 12 kids, 12 people. And Lot's wife, not Lot, I'm sorry. And that's another person that God killed. But Job's family or whatever made him lose all his livestock, gave this motherfucker leprosy. And then Job was steadfast, so Job had 12 more kids, got all his riches back. Like, and it was about money. Okay, you're going, like, it's like on some Breaking Bad shit. Some Walter White killed all these motherfuckers, so I'm supposed to give you $10 million. Nigga, I still got the memory of like 12 motherfuckers that used to be in this house. And I got 12 new people, so I got to wait until the paradise earth, so when I see them in heaven or whatever it is that you believe, like, that still don't change the pain of fucking what happened. Oh, because you gave me some more money, you gave me some more kids and a new wife, so I'm supposed to be fucking good. That don't change that you let a fucking sick, evil, rapist, murdering pedophile do whatever he wanted to my family and my kids and shit just to prove a point to a bunch of strangers. You fucking kidding me, man? Y'all people really adhere to religion. Study y'all shit, man. Study that shit. That shit is evil, man. When you really go in on it, like, and really, really study it, that shit is evil. Ain't nothing. It's nothing good about that shit, man, dude. If you really get to the root of it, it's bad, man. It's bad. And I felt this way about it since I was 12 years old, but I was a little kid, so I couldn't really fight against it. It's bad, man. It's not good, yo. It's not good. A God that will take away protection from his children just to prove that they love him. What the fuck? Surely there are other ways where you don't have to allow sadistic shit to happen to your kids to prove that they love you. You know what? I'm gonna let my child is an innocent child, but I'm gonna fucking throw him in prison, have him get beat up and raped in prison and shit, and all this negative shit or whatever, just to prove that he loves me. What? As far as I'm concerned with God and all that shit, that version of God, fuck you. There's a real entity upstairs out there, but it's not the biblical one. It's not that. That shit is fucking evil, man. There's nothing good about that shit. We're created in God's image. No father will let somebody do whatever they want to do to his children just to prove a point to some fucking neighbors and to a fucking fucked up neighbor that's trying to kill him. No father would do no shit like that, man. That's bullshit. As soon as anybody read that passage and read that, they shouldn't want nothing to do with the Bible or none of that shit, man. They shouldn't want nothing to do with it, man. That's some evil, sick shit, dude. Evil, sick, sadistic shit, man. The Bible has good tenets, you know, love your brother, you know what I mean? Like you love your neighbor like you love yourself, you know, honor your brother, honor your mother and father. You can't kill, murder. All these great things. You got the fucking 10 commands. You can't kill, you can't murder, you know, thou shalt not do this, blah, blah, blah. All these things you shouldn't do. But you got this creature that's supposedly evil that wants to do all these things to Job's family. But God is protecting him from having that. And so God lifts that protection just to fucking prove a point. And allows this dude to break all the commandments against his children just to prove a fucking point. But he's telling human beings not to do that. Contradiction like a motherfucker. I can't fuck with the Bible. I can't fuck with religion. I'm good. I'm out, man. Peace, man.